What's up, everybody? Austin Cheviron here with the Winning Twice podcast. We have gotten this thing off the ground. I'm excited. We're bringing in new guests every week to help open up your mind to seeing about living a better life, growing your business, talking about your legacy, working on your financials. And today I got a special guest for you. I got my buddy. I got long-term client. I got a story to tell you guys. And Bob Fisher, welcome to the Winning Twice podcast, bud.
Thank you, Austin. Glad to be here.
I got a question. Is this the first ever podcast you've been on?
It is.
This
is it.
You have, okay, so you're an avid listener to podcasts that I know. How many episodes of podcasts do you think you've listened to in your life?
In my life? Gosh.
In your life.
I've been listening to more probably these last years, but I probably listened to probably 5 or 6 a day over the last couple years. I don't know how many I listened prior to that. You know, I listen to YouTube podcasts all the time as I'm searching stuff out. So a lot. So that's because I don't really watch TV. So I'm normally seeking out content, and, you know, when I'm winding down, when I'm cooking, doing things at home, that's what I'm listening to.
So guys, what we have on our show today is we have someone who's listened to 3,000 to 5,000 podcasts, but's never been on one. So it's kind of special for me that I didn't put that in my notes today, Bob, but that's what I want to start with. So let's do this. I want to walk them back through a decade ago and kind of our relationship, where you were, the conversations we had or didn't have a decade ago, and then walk them through where we're at today, because you know, what's special about you, about me, and about us is we've gone through that journey. And the journey is what people want to know. Like, how the heck do you do this? So, okay, so let's take them back a decade ago. So it's 2016.
Yeah.
What was going on in your life?
2016, I was a full-time real estate agent, had been since 2005. Same broker. You and I were at the same brokerage. I mean, going back 10 years, I mean, my kids are all kind of grown now. So, you know, I was in that season 2 of running hard. That would have been 14, 11, and a 10-year-old. So, you know, balancing home life balance and all of that too, obviously is difficult in our business.
So tell them how close our offices were together.
We were, I think, one apart. There was a conference room in between us.
And the conference room was in the corner. So your door to my door was probably no more than 10 feet away.
Correct. Yeah. You shared an office with your dad. Yep.
And you shared an office too.
I did.
And do you remember, I kind of remember that moment of, I don't know what was said, but I remember how I felt, which is like, hey, Bob, it's time to get moving.
Well, you could obviously observe habits, and back then didn't have the best of habits, even though you know me now, even though I'm extremely disciplined and structured, you know, your surroundings and your environment's everything.
Yeah, let's talk a little more about that, because you don't just become, you know, you're the only guy that I know in this world that is more consistent than I am in one aspect, which is meeting you at the gym. And I think you got me by one.
One time.
You got me, and I don't forget, you got me by one.
That's right.
And that's over about a 7-8 year period now, maybe even longer. So you talk about habits, you talk about discipline, like, Tell me about habits and discipline a decade ago, because we're going to talk about where we're at today. So what did that look like back then?
You want to talk more like business or just overall?
You tell me. So when I looked in your office, I didn't see you.
Yeah. I mean, I was definitely not getting in early. I mean, it was probably my schedule back then was probably, you know, I had my kids half the time. So it was probably getting them to school, you know, going to the gym, then getting into the office late morning, which you've already lost probably half your day. So that was probably a typical day, you know, not a lot of proactive activities back then. It was more of a reactionary business like most of us run.
Which is normal.
Yeah.
And so were you picking your kids up from school too, or did they ride the bus, or?
I would pick them up.
Okay. So just to hear everybody, I just want everybody to hear this clearly. He would drop them off, and we're family first, by the way.
Yeah.
But Bob would drop them off. Then you'd probably go to the gym.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Now
Bob
that'd
would
be
drop
half
them
the
off.
days. So, you know, 7 out of every 14 days, my schedule would be like that, but it is hard then to flip the switch and be highly structured on the opposite days. You tend to just have them all be the same then, unfortunately.
So drop off the kids, go to the gym, get in the office 10 to 11.
Probably.
And that's when I would see you.
Yeah.
And then some of the days you would leave at 2:30 and then go pick up the kids. And I'm
Well,
like, where the hell is Bob?
yeah.
Bob, where are you? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And did you think you were really doing anything wrong back then, though? I mean,
you're a little bit in survival mode sometimes as a single parent running kids and things like that. So, yeah. And if you don't have other voices, mentors, leaders, people helping you with your life, then it just kind of, a lot of times it's just where you land, you know?
yeah. So what changed? Something obviously triggered. And sometimes there's triggers in all of our lives that say from this moment on,
I don't
that's no longer
remember
acceptable.
if I was already in group coaching with you, but I remember you had a goal to lose some weight. I can't remember if you had it posted on your office door or something, but I remember approaching you saying, "Hey, let's work out a deal here. I'll help you with your body. You help me with my business." And
I
that's
did.
kind of
So
where
what's
this is really where it all began for you and I. Let's call it 8 years ago or however long this has been.
Yeah, so what I did, a lot of people, it's funny, I was coaching someone yesterday and they're like, should we put our financials on social media? Because they took a picture and I'm going, well, damn, just show the world what your goals are. It's okay.
Yeah.
Worst thing they're going to do is try to help you, right? And so I just put my weight goal right back up on, I put it up on my office door and you said something. I don't remember what you said, but you did say like, I can help you. Do you want to help me? And I was like, sure. And you go, that's not the right goal is what you said. Cause no one cares what you weigh. Cut your leg off if you want to weigh that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It reminds me of real estate agents who say, my goal's 10 million. I'm like, okay, you can do 10 million for me, but you're not going to make a penny. And they're like, well, that's not it. And I'm like, well, then you got the wrong goal.
Right.
What is your actual goal? And I remember you telling me that. So then we started to work out together and let them know what time we first started working out.
It was I think we would meet at either 4 or 4:30 in the morning. So
Mhm.
it was definitely early. And then, we lived in the same neighborhood. So then we would start driving together. So
Yeah.
you would come to my house, pick me up.
Yeah. Efficiency.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Efficiency.
Yep.
So we did that. And then what started to turn in your business? Tell me, okay, we started, okay, this is important for everybody. Something sparked inside of him. He
So,
found a, yep.
um, I was on a team with one other person for a number of years. Um, believe the beginning of 2018, we kind of parted ways. Um, Not to throw that person under the bus, but that was probably the beginning of better habits and a better trajectory overall with everything.
Yeah. And
Um,
sometimes everybody, you're one new person away from getting to where you want to go, or you're removing yourself from one
yeah,
person. Not saying anything was wrong with them, but
no.
we can have different goals and different vision and different everything in life.
Yeah,
And,
if you're
and
not, if the one person in business you're spending the most amount of time with is not, goal minded and, advancing, it has an advanced thinking and wants to be led and, learn new things, it's difficult then to do that yourself, especially if it's a two-person team.
yeah, let's do this. Let's drop some wisdom for him, Bob. Me and you talk a lot about this. So and let's help them out because they need to do the same things.
Yeah.
When we go through that breakup, how do we talk to them about the idea of a divorce compared to celebration? And I think you know what I'm getting at here.
Yeah, I mean, just because just because your path in business ends doesn't mean that you're enemies. You can celebrate someone and wish them luck moving on, and that's kind of there wasn't it wasn't anything that was like a real negative there. It was just where I wanted to get to. I needed a different path and needed to get myself around different people, and I couldn't really probably like articulate what that looked like back then, but that was pretty clear to me.
Yeah. So, and when a lot of people go through something like that, it's enemies, it's negativity. And what I've learned, and we've talked a lot about this, and even in our business today, it's like I've learned to celebrate the time I've had with them.
Yeah.
And it's like I go back to appreciation. I'm so grateful the time we got to spend. And a lot of hours in therapy, Bob. I tend to think it's probably because my mother passed when I was 17. And so now I'm just like, well, hell, everybody's going to leave me through death, through divorce, through somehow everyone's going to leave me in time. So let's celebrate the time we have together. Let's give it all the thing we got. And when our time's done, our time's done.
Yeah.
And let's just say that was great.
Yeah.
So kind of self-trained. I think people, when I do that, they kind of like, this is weird for me. And I'm like, well, I've already envisioned moving on in my head. So I'm already past all the breakup. Like I'm going to lose everybody.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that seems like a negative way to go through life, but it also allows me to go through life and not get stuck with and we both had it. Like,
Yeah.
you move on and everyone's like, what do you think? You're better than everybody else? It's like, no, I have a vision and I'm pursuing it.
Yeah.
So, okay. So then it's funny. I always think when you do the hard things, God gives you the next opportunity. So tell us what the next opportunity was in your life.
So that was interesting. So that was beginning of 2018. Then probably fast forward not very long, maybe 6 months. The
Mhm.
brokerage that we worked at was also a developer. Um, through some conversations, the owner came to me and said, "Hey, we think you should go out on your own and start building custom homes." That was never a thought. That was never an idea. That would have never crossed my mind in a million years. But then that was the start of a new company, call it
What's the
some
name of the company?
Prime Homes.
Prime Homes.
Prime
And
Homes.
what does Prime Homes do?
Well, now we're a custom home builder. We build probably 15 to 18 houses a year, pretty high end. So, coming from the agent background, we really try to fill gaps in the market where other builders, where there may be voids from other builders, or just there's inventory gaps with newer homes. You know,
Yeah, and we'll get there. I'll just say this. We have a competitive advantage because we're not I was just telling you in the coaching last week ago, tell me the different types of hammers. I'm like, oh, I have no clue. I'm a sales guy. I
Yep.
run a business.
Yeah,
It just happens to be custom homes.
yeah,
And we've done a good job of taking the competitive advantage that we have and really magnifying how that shows up.
yeah,
So okay, so walk me back. It's 8 years ago now.
yeah.
Prime Home starts. What do you know about custom homes? About building them?
About building them, very little. Obviously, our brokerage was a developer, so I repped custom builders most of my duration being there. So I had limited, and I had interaction with that, but it was on a very limited scale. I had some relationships out in the field from the relationships that those few builders had. So, that ended up being useful when we went out on our own. But as far as building of homes, very little knowledge. And I'm not mechanically inclined at all.
So you're really the last person who the world would have thought would be
Yeah.
a custom
I do
home
not
builder.
have a mechanical mind. That's not the brain that I've been gifted with.
And just to let everybody know, it doesn't mean you can't do something just because you haven't been gifted with those talents. There's multiple talents you need to run a company.
Yeah.
So Bob took them. Okay, now let's talk about that first year in business. What did that look like? I believe I was there with you that first year.
Yeah, because we were already
So
coaching in real estate. So I guess to back up a little further, in 2009, um, I was part of a company called Prime Properties that, we did, we flipped some homes here and there. We would, with the builders that I repped, oftentimes like finance a spec house. I would then list it and sell it. We would split some sort of profits. So we had a company called Prime Properties that I did have a partner in.
Mhm.
So when this opportunity came, we changed the name from Prime Properties to Prime Homes. But the first call I made was to who my current partner is in Prime Homes and said, "Hey, what do you think about doing this? Are you in?" Because I clearly recognized this wasn't something that I would probably attempt to do just on my own. And he
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, I'm in." So that's kind of where then it was let's like then we just said let's figure out how to do this as far as like building the first house.
Yeah, and I remember our first house. So
Yeah.
what did you learn from the first house? What do you still have with you today? The lessons, the failures, the successes from home one?
I think, the secret sauce still to this day is the mindset, the effort, um, that went into that house.
Yeah, the
Even though there's
care.
only one home, the care needs to be scaled in everything that we do now, because that's what really helped that home stand out, as you're trying to, you're a new builder, no one knows who you are. So you're trying to brand yourself and start to make a name for yourself.
It's funny. I'm going to bring this up, and this might not even be right, but if I remember right, our first home had over 1,000 square foot garage.
I did.
Yeah, okay. And so here's where I'm going with this. The reason it had 1,000 square foot garage is not because that's what the market set us to do. It's because our partner was a car guy
Yeah.
and he loved garages and cars. So we built our first home as if we wanted it.
Yeah.
That was like what we wanted.
Yeah.
And today we don't do that though.
Good
We
point.
build what the market
Yes.
says. We go by stats, but our first home we just built kind of what we wanted. And that's funny. And you were back then looking at, you had just come off possibly building a home, if I remember right. So you were thinking through that process too. What would I build?
Yeah.
Um, and so we built our first home. Tell me about the first couple years with Prime Homes. What did you learn? What were the struggles? What were the
Well,
successes?
obviously, you don't really have a team yet, so you're kind of, wearing all the hats, which you're also having to wear some construction hats, and that's not your expertise. So that does make you a little vulnerable. I mean, looking back, we are pretty fortunate that we didn't make any like crucial errors, not having experts in the field. Um, but just looking back, thankful for understanding now all the aspects of the business, but clearly recognizing what we were missing and lacking and needing, which was an expert in the field.
Yeah,
Because
we
my
had two
partner
business
too is
guys.
not is doesn't come out of the home building. He's more of our financial. He's our CFO. So we are, as you say, we're set up completely different than almost all builders, which is a strength and a weakness at the same time.
Yes, yeah. And so what do you think I wish we had our calls recorded back then. What do you think we were talking about 6 years ago with Prime Homes? What was the pieces in our coaching sessions?
Oh man, yeah. I mean,
We
I
weren't
think
talking
like
about
they are
anything
today.
we
I
talk
think like
about
they are
today.
today. They're very detailed and very strategic. You know, back then the subs that you have, you're not their number one, you're not their number two. So you're
Mm-mm.
trying to move up the ranks on the tier list where you have more leverage with your subs so you're trying to we were focusing on systems, processes to make us a builder that subs and suppliers would want to work with and work for more. And I think that, one thing that we did really well in the beginning was understanding that we are not in the center of this, that we are here to serve everyone around us, which is really backwards from most thinking. But that's really been one of the things I think that helped move us forward the most.
Yeah. Okay. So we're here to serve. So other than that, what else do you think that we got right in our first 3 years of the business that really help set us up to get to where we're at today?
We were just always very strategic, I think, with the houses that we were building because, you have limited funds of what you can do. You can't do 5, 6 houses at a time. So you're trying to, you always say, you're trying to kill multiple birds with one stone. So, you're trying to
Yeah.
get the most bang for your buck that you can. Um, Obviously, first and foremost, selling the home, but getting builds, getting momentum off those homes, and able to like we are today, like trying to stack, just having a stacking effect of what you're doing and having a process and maybe a vision of how to do that.
Yeah, actually, you bring up a good point. So, not that another Northeastern Indiana builder is going to listen to this, but I mean, we started our first how many years just building specs and living off specs, Bob? How many years was that?
Yeah. Well, we made our big first hire 4 years ago, for our
Yeah.
VP of construction, and up until that point, we were 90% spec. And even the first year we had him, I think we only did 1 pre-sold intentionally to work on systems. So, up until 3 years ago, you know, almost the overwhelming majority of our business was spec homes.
Yeah. And I'm like, when he says overwhelming, you're talking like 90
Yeah,
plus percent.
yeah,
And for most people, if they see that and hear that, it's like, how did they financially do that? Well, being very diligent with the money, weekly coaching sessions to
yeah,
say, here's what's going in, here's what's going out, here's my thoughts, here's my opportunities, what are the liabilities,
yeah,
and trying just not to make a wrong move. And that in the early stage, Bob, we didn't have a lot of wrong moves that we could afford to make.
yeah. We were
And
fortunate
talking
in the beginning that rates were low. I mean, you couldn't build a business like that today.
Mhm.
It would be very difficult with the way that rates are with spec homes. So, like, the timing looking back was really good for when we started because of the rates. Because back then, as you remember, we wouldn't even be willing to sell a spec home until it was finished because
Yeah.
during the build, it was going up in value. You know,
Mhm.
I mean, that would be unheard of to say today. If someone wanted to buy it during construction, now it'd be like, it's for sale.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, I remember that. Should we even sell it during the process? So it made the process harder because we weren't building houses for people, so when they would buy our spec under construction, it's like we had to create a whole new systems and
I
processes to
know.
go through that, which created a whole bunch of
It
problems.
did.
So okay, first 3 years, I'm just kinda honing in on 3 years right now. What was our biggest mistake or one of them we made in those first 3 years?
Gosh, I mean, you only
I
learn
know.
from the mistake. I mean, like you said, we didn't have luckily any like catastrophic mistakes. I think maybe early on, you're trying to build your relationships with the main developers. Sometimes you might
Mhm.
be a little too easily influenced by others that are in more of a position that have
Yep.
done it longer. Or now, you know, you've really helped us kind of even out our relationships where we're not always looking up to who we're working with. We're trying to kind of even the stage there a little bit. So we're able to stick a little bit better to what our vision is and not be, I don't know if influence is the way, but just, we know what we're going to, we know what a prime lot is. We know what a prime home is. We know our business plan and very little, if anything's going to take us off that path.
Yeah. So if I heard you correctly in the beginning, and I would say most business owners are going to have this is when someone doesn't ask you what your vision is, but they're giving you advice, it's normally based off of their vision.
Yeah. Good point.
And not that there's anything wrong with that, but I know today when someone tells me what I should do, like I get people tell me all the time, you should do this, you should go do this. I go, you never even asked me what I wanted.
Good point.
Like, do you know my kids are 15 and 13 and I got like 5 more years before 90% of the time I have with them is gone?
Yeah.
Like, that's worth something to me. So if you want me to go do what you think I need to, you should go speak more. You should be more on social media. You should go do,
Mhm.
you never asked me what was important to me.
Yeah.
And so I've learned to just kind of white noise that and say, hey, I hear you, but until you ask me what's important to me, which no one was asking you back then what's important to you,
Mm.
they were just telling you, here's what I think you should do here.
Yeah.
And it's normally based off of and it's not out of a bad intent, but it's based off of what their intent is, what their goal is, and how do you help fit into what they're
Pretty
doing.
much.
So, okay. So, and most people start the relationship, they're here, we're here.
Yeah.
Just give me a seat at the table. Let me play. Give me an opportunity.
Yeah.
Well, what turned the corner from us being this relationship with everybody to this? What turned that corner?
I think you just have to be clear on where you're trying to get to, so like and have, you know, well, my partner having us both cohesive where we're trying to get to as far as what that vision is. So, if we already have a plan of what we're trying to accomplish, then, you know, it's going to be less apt for something to take us off the path, you would think.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember there was some words that we kept saying, and I had to recorrect our words that were coming out of our mouth, which was it started with, "Hey, we're just a 1-year-old builder. Hey, we're just in business for 2
Yeah.
years." And then next thing you know, "Hey, we're just in business for 3, 4, and 5." And I just want to say, "God, can we stop saying that?"
Yeah.
Like, we're just gonna say, "Hey, we've just been in business for 18 years, like, we just started." No, we're 18 years.
Yeah.
Some people have sold their company for multi-millions at this point, like, we
Yeah.
can't. And so changing the words we were saying, because it's what we used to be, I think that was one of the moments that said, "Okay, we're not here anymore. We can be here." People are coming to us asking us for advice now.
Yeah.
And, "Hey, what do you know in the market?" And I get people that come up to me and say, "Did you see what Prime Homes is doing?" I say, "Oh, yeah, I got an idea. I've watched what they were doing." They don't know that I'm necessarily with you. "Oh, yeah, I've watched what they're doing. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
doing pretty good, huh? Where'd they come from?
Yeah.
How did they do all this?" So,
Yep.
okay, so we turned the corner. And when we started turning the corner, I think the market started to shift. I think we've earned our right now to start building pre-sold. So tell me how you pivoted as the CEO of Prime Homes. How did you pivot your company to be heavy on the spec side to now specs and pre-solds? What did that look like?
I think we knew early on, building the specs was twofold. One, that's how you establish and learn your processes and work out the bugs with things, because the last thing you want to do is take on pre-solds and have it be a bad experience, because the word gets out really quickly. So, you
Yeah.
know, we always knew that, like, the long-term goal wasn't probably to build 90% specs, but it was necessary in the beginning to build an infrastructure. Um, but when we made our big hire, which would have been 4 years ago last month, we have just a terrific VP of construction that just has brought so much to the company. Like, we have a true unicorn expert in the field now that
He's a brainchild. He's like
is
a prodigy.
yeah, we put him up against any, but I don't think anybody has what we had.
Yeah, I bet in his spare time, he's got little bulldozers and a place like a sandbox full of dirt, and he's moving it with I can
Yeah.
just see him doing that in his spare time. So,
Well, yeah, I remember when that year we hired him, we took on one pre-sold intentionally that we signed up about the time he started. And I remember telling him, this particular house is for you to speak in and help establish our process. And we're just going to work on this one particular house. So
mm,
that was kind of the mindset back then. And then, as the market then begins to change, rates go up. Now our business is at year 5. You have a little bit of a brand, because we were pretty active in the market, as you know, pretty aggressive, putting specs up, buying lots. So we probably made a decade of branding in probably half the time. So it just
yeah.
kind of all kind of built on itself there. And then, you now you're trying to build a team. You go from 2 owners to now you got a construction expert in the field. My partner is the CFO, I'm sales and CEO, and that's kind of where the journey kind of begins. And that's obviously you've been there every step of the way.
So when you say sales, what is that position that you hold in your company for the sales?
Now it's CRO, which is Chief Revenue Officer. So, my job is to bring in the revenue, all aspects of bringing in revenue. And,
Yes.
up until recent, I was still listing the homes, up until probably the last year or so, still doing open houses often. Those are things that I have now had to relinquish to be able to focus more on my other roles.
Yeah. So let's talk about vision a little bit, Bob. A decade ago, the vision was lacking. The vision was just say not clear. So once
Yeah.
again, um, what's changed over the last decade with your vision?
Well, I think, the passion to Austin is a thing, like real estate was great. I was grateful for it. It wasn't, I wasn't popping out of bed in the morning out of excitement. It can be a draining business. Um,
It's demanding is what my dad says.
but when we started Prime 8.5 years ago, or whatever that was too, you know, we didn't know if that was just going to be a build a home here and there and that's it, or if it was gonna grow into a company. I think once we got a little more into it, and started to grow, and it's probably around that time that we hired Matt, that's where, that's probably where
Yeah.
my vision and my excitement kicked in a little bit more. And you've seen my life. I've gone from 8 years ago doing 100% selling real estate, 0% prime, starting prime. You're spending 5 to 10% of your day building one home. The rest of it, I'm still selling real estate, to
Yeah.
today selling 0 real estate, and 100% of my time is running prime homes. So it's just been an evolution over a number of years, but I think until I was at 100% of my time in it, which really probably wasn't until these last couple years. Because you guys gotta, well, like you say, you always gotta burn all the ships. I mean, you gotta push all your chips in, and there are
Yeah.
no other
It
options.
and I had to fight you on some of those.
Yeah.
Remember, like, getting in your office?
Yeah.
Would that take 6 months to get you in,
Kind of.
12 months?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, "You gotta get all in." And you're like, "I know, but there's a lot of things here." And part of this being all in, I'd like to actually talk about this, is the financial aspect.
Yeah.
It's like, "Hey, I would like to be all in, but I gotta earn income.
Yeah.
I gotta have money." It's not like someone's just sending me a check every month. So, you did something, and I'm very proud of you for this. You did what most people don't do. Okay. And here's what I mean. Most people see this bigger vision. This is what they want, and they're currently here, but they're not willing to let go of what they have to get to this point. You sold your house.
I did.
You,
You've seen what I've
you
done.
like, you've let go.
Yeah.
Like, how did you mentally decide to do that? And like, what did that actually look like? And I want you to describe it so that person, that Bob, that has that vision, that
Yeah.
wants to go, like, help them let go of this version and get to here. And what did you have to look like? What did it look like financially to make those commitments?
I think when you know where you're trying to get to, you just have to look at everything in your life, and I don't think there's anything that's like off limits temporarily to pull back on. Where you're living,
Right.
what you're driving, vacations that you're doing. I mean, there's going to have to be a level of sacrifice to get to an end goal, right? So, that I had built my home 5 years ago or so. I sold it 2.5 years ago off market, had an opportunity. I had almost $1 million house. I sold that, moved into a brand new townhouse that was $200,000. And I've
Yeah.
moved twice in the same neighborhood. Now I'm in a larger one, but I've had a pit stop now for 2.5 years. It's not like ideal, but it has set myself up to be able to pour more into prime, live off a little
Yeah.
bit less, and just maybe recalibrate a little bit.
You went from living in one of the nicest subdivision to living with renters.
Yeah.
Yeah. To help everybody hears that.
Yeah.
And he didn't have
And I
to.
think that you have to get to a point in your life where you don't care about what anybody thinks about,
Yeah.
when you're in your 30s sometimes and you're growing, like, especially in real estate, everybody's trying to one up one another, where they're living, what they're driving, all their vacations, everything that they're doing. For me, I had to get to a point where I don't care, where it's like, you know what? Because I bet people looked at me selling my home and they probably thought I was struggling, going, wow, but
Oh,
he's not
you
doing
bet your
very
butt
good.
they did.
But that was my choice to do that. You know, but it all aligned up with a longer term vision. And I knew it was temporary. I mean, I'm getting ready
Yeah.
to build my own home again now. So it was a 2.5 year pit stop. Uh, and you and I discussed that in detail, whether that was the right thing to do. And
Yeah.
looking back, it was, because I think that it would have been a lot more difficult to do what we've done with Prime these last 2.5 years had I not done that.
Well, because once you go all in, and I want everybody to hear me clearly here, once you make the commitment to go all in, everything else becomes easier.
Yeah. And
It's and
letting
I
go is like like we need to not be tied to things in this world too. It's healthy
tell me
for us to
why.
let go of things because,
Uh-huh.
so much of our identity comes from, where we live, what we drive, what our wife looks like, great our kids are doing. And that's not who we are. You know,
Mm.
that's
Tell
not
me
who
what's
we are.
important.
I mean, who you are is like inside of you, who God created you to be. And are you living out the purpose that you've been gifted to live out?
Mm.
And you and I talk about that all the time.
Yep.
Like we're here for a reason. It's to shine the light of Christ. We're here to make a mark while we are here. And it doesn't mean that, you know, I think that just that a lot of the success language that we've bought into in our country, like you can get there and still be completely miserable. That
Yeah. And a
doesn't
lot of them are.
yeah. So, that's would I have done that, 10 or 15 years ago? Probably not.
Mm-mm.
But I think that's been healthy for me as a man growing and also needing to grow and be okay with being misunderstood in any area of my life because ultimately I don't answer to other people. You know,
Yep. And now,
you have
now
a
once you
calling, I have a
decided,
calling. It's real easy for people to, want to cast opinion on what we do, you know.
everybody, everybody, everybody wants to have an opinion and they can just like,
But I
I just don't care.
but I think you're right, and just going back to, like, being all in, you know, like, when we started Prime, we've paid, as owners ourselves, very little over 7 to 8 years. There you have to be willing to pay the price a little bit. If you want something great, you're gonna have to sacrifice to get there, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and you've seen me do that, you know,
Oh, yeah.
on multiple levels, but now we've built actually a company that we can grow.
Yeah. It's funny you talk about sacrifice. So I was going to build a home with you guys a year or two ago,
Yeah,
and I had the vision. I wanted the new home, the home I live in. I paid $241,000 for.
yeah,
Not that that means anything to anybody, but I'm doing a little bit better than that home. And I had a vision to build something new so I didn't have to repair and maintain what I got. I wanted my wife to have the pool she's always wanted, so I was gonna do that. I was gonna put an outbuilding. It had 80 acres behind it that I could go walk in the woods, which
yeah,
doctors told me would be really good for my health. I was gonna put a apartment or studio above the outbuilding so my dad, my mother-in-law, I could like cousin that somebody could be
yeah,
there. I don't know what that house was gonna cost. It was gonna be 1.2 to 1.9 by the time I was done with
yeah,
it. And I could have paid cash for it, Bob. And I could have just said, "You know what? Call that good." But I decided not to. And I decided to go all in on finishing the phase that I was in. I almost felt like I was skipping ahead to the next phase before I was done with this one.
yeah, makes a lot of
And
sense.
and most people do, right? It's like the house you bought, you really can't afford, but you can, but you can't, but you can.
Yeah,
And I remember saying, "No, you know what? I gotta get the rental houses I have. I gotta get these in a better position, either pay them all off or pay half of them off, get them to the point where if something happens to me, I can still live based off of this reoccurring income." And I remember that moment and just saying, I'm not done with this phase. I need to stay here. I'm not done with it. It's not that I've done anything wrong, but I need to finish this phase
well, and
successfully.
you and I talk a lot about also setting ourselves up financially. Like we have a mentor named Chris Lewittley who has
Yeah.
set himself up in a way where he's financially set and he can give his time away to help people. So I
Yes.
think for you too, your vision of shining your light and being the salt of the world lines up better by not spending all that money because you're gonna be able to give of yourself more. So,
Yes. So how do you
people
do that? How do you live on less, do what's hard today so life can become easy one day? I mean, I think we all want that vision, that legacy, but most of us aren't living it. We're not delaying gratification. Like like
I think,
give them.
I can only speak for myself, I'm not hardly at all on social media. I'm not in a space where I'm comparing myself to a lot of other people. It's easy to do when you're younger, but, you and I are roughly 10 years apart. I don't know if I would have been at that stage when I was your age. You're a lot more mature than most guys are, but I think just detaching from a lot of what's out there because that's all that's thrown at us all the time. And,
Mm,
where we live, think about it, Northwest Fort Wayne, everybody goes on spring break, whether they have the money or not. People are going whether they're throwing it on a credit card because they're entitled to it. They're like, they deserve it. And that mindset, um, doesn't get you anywhere, so I think for me, it was good for me to be able to step back and know that none of these things, um, mark who I am, right? It
Mm,
doesn't where I live, uh, I you even get on me, I don't take enough vacations, which I want to start doing more, but there's a temporary sacrifice for a longer term. And now, now we see what's kind of coming here at year 8, year 9 with Prime, but there's definitely been a sacrifice to that. I gave up a really nice brokerage income that,
mm.
has been slashed to little to nothing off of
To nothing,
referrals
yeah.
now. But that's just, it's you always say it, it's really hard to trade in good for great, especially when you start out as low as I did in life, so poor and things like that. Cause, my family would have looked at good and thought that was excellent. And,
Yeah.
but it wasn't but I knew that God had more calling on my life of work, and I love leading people. I love leading a team. I love building a team. I like mentoring young guys. I get a lot of satisfaction out of those things that don't necessarily give me a dollar. That
Yeah.
that gives me fulfillment and impact in my
Well, and
life.
that's actually what we're working on in our coaching sessions with Prime now is just how do we organize and optimize our current team?
Yeah,
And just that work alone is tough.
yeah,
Man, I mean, we could find 1,000 different problems
yeah,
just within the org chart. I mean, we're working on org chart right now,
yeah,
and who does what, and what is their roles and responsibilities. So just anybody listening, very successful companies, years into the business, still working on the basics,
yeah.
right? It's like we're a football team and we're still working on run to the right.
And this
And how do we run to the right perfectly so we know I got this thing down to a science?
Yep.
And that's what we're working on. And it's going back to leadership. You've really had to step up in your leadership. And it's not getting easier.
Yeah, and
Mm,
you felt, they're just, again, as a man, addressing things that need to be addressed, not sweeping things under the rug because if you're doing it in your business, you're going to do it in your personal life. And then all of a sudden, all of your relationships are a little bit superficial then because there's never any hard conversations. There's never any hard talks. Those things are really healthy, but they're really hard, but I
yeah.
think just being in growth phase as a person, that's one thing that I've always respected out of you and told you that you do such a good job of. You work on the person because everything's going to flow out of the person. Or most people just say, help me with my business. Well, if I don't fix you, I can't fix your business. I can fix it temporarily, but not long term.
Yeah, it's funny. They always come in for the business or financials. And then by the time I get in, it's like, well, you're the one screwing all this up. Do you want to fix the problem? Do you want a long-term solution? Well, and it's great work that me and you have done. I've done it in my life and it's lit a fire underneath you, which is we got to address everything that's not right. We can't sweep it underneath the rug and it's not easy and I don't always want to, but once I'm all in and I'm committed, and it doesn't mean that we're 100%, right, Bob?
Correct.
But it means we're going from 40% to 70%. And the 30% we're not addressing, we still identify and say, just not right now, but I see you at least, and a conscious choice. And I think that changes everything.
Yeah. And I think just having the mindset of being a good steward, we're, you know, as Christians, we know that we are owners of nothing. We're stewards of everything. So like, I have to steward this opportunity that God has given me. I'm going to answer for this one day. And I take great responsibility with that. I probably put a lot of pressure on myself because I understand the impact of that, and
Yeah.
um, that's to me that's very exciting, but it's a different lens, of now stewarding a team, caring for a staff. Every decision I make affects them. It affects their families. It affects, my decisions now affect a lot more people than just myself. You
Yeah.
know,
You're exactly right.
yeah.
Well, I think that's the ultimate goal is how do I give my life and live my life while I'm here to positively impact other people for hopefully generations to come.
Yeah.
And to best do that, you're required to make the hard decisions. You're required to have the hard conversations.
Yeah.
You're required to do the things that other people aren't willing to
You and I
do,
have
but
always
that's
said that,
okay.
being committed to being a plus person, even,
Yeah,
like in our relationship, you're in a lot of rooms. I want you to want to spend time. Like, I know I need to bring value somehow to you, be a plus per whatever that means. Like,
yeah,
that's important to me. I want to make the room, when I walk in a room, I want to make it better. I need to bring something to the room wherever I'm at, and I think
yeah,
just deciding to be that type of a person and committing to that as a man, it's a process. You don't get there overnight, and it comes with loss and pain, and you know um, screw ups along the way. That's the only way. Success is a terrible teacher, obviously. So any great person you see, any great business, they probably went through some major growing pains to get where they're at.
yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, Bob, I always like to end with one question, as I believe a lot of our listeners are entrepreneurs. So, what is one piece of advice you would give for a early on entrepreneur?
I would say the number one thing is, you know, look at your crew, look at your surroundings. Whoever has your ear has your life. So, and you've seen me do this and you do a really good job of that. I strive to put myself in rooms with people that have accomplished things that I have not. And I think having multiple people, having people that have a successful marriage. I'm drawn to guys that have been married 30, 40, 50 years. They have information I don't have. I want to be a good husband one day. I'm engaged. I want to get this right this time. I want to be a good dad. People that have raised godly kids that are
Yeah,
30, 40 years old now. You're going to have financial mentors. So I think seeking out people and not be and having the humility to ask people to come alongside you and hold you accountable. There's got to be a level of humility there, but I think that is, those are things that I probably had not done real well up until the time you and I got rolling. And I think just, being around you opened up my challenged my thinking a lot too, because I hear these rooms that you're in and the people that you would seek out, the mentors you would seek out. And I just think I think that's the journey we have to be on. And,
yeah.
and it's going to help your business. It's going to help your home life. It's going to affect every area. And I don't think it ever ends
I was
because,
just
you know,
a couple days ago, I was just thinking about all my mentors, and I'm like, damn, I got like an A plus plus mentor group, man.
yeah,
I have busted my butt. If I put the list of these people, it's like, wow, how did you get those people as your mentors? And it's like, I worked hard. I asked, and what you did, pro tip, I was always a plus one in their lives.
yeah,
When they need something, they can call me. And if I'm ever next to them, they know they're always getting something with me there. I'm not taking from them. I'm always
yeah,
giving. So, well, Bob, I appreciate your time here on the Winning Twice podcast,
dude,
buddy.
this was
I hope,
now I'm all broken in on podcasts now. This was great,
yeah,
Austin.
buddy.
Yeah.
This conversation will hopefully impact a lot of lives, and I appreciate your time here today, Bob. Thank you,
Thanks for
man.
having me on.
Thank you.
See you, buddy.